struggled with at times too, years and years and years ago. So I figure I'll get up early, rock out for about an hour, and then provide some solutions to some folks that may be thinking about getting into entrepreneurship and getting them prepared for some of the things that come with it. So, for those that don't know, I am Otis James. I'm a full time real estate investor and entrepreneur out of the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm a licensed real estate broker in California, licensed real estate broker in Georgia, former mortgage broker. Spent over 2 decades in the multifamily commercial industry. I'm considered a long term hold investor. I am a consultant. I consult on projects all the way from single family to major multifamily commercial. I invest all over the country. I'm the founder of the 4 Data Points Academy. That is a real estate training platform that doesn't have an end date. So I personally mentor around 350 new real estate investors all over the country. My background started when I was a very young child. I come from a real estate family. My father's been a real estate broker since the early 70s, 1973. He got licensed in 1971. And pretty much anything that has to do with real estate, I have some experience in some way, shape, or form. I had a national notary signing agent company over 2 decades ago. I'm licensed in insurance. No, I'm not in the insurance business, but because we use it to invest in real estate and so I can speak intelligently about it, I got licensed in it and a whole bunch of other stuff that you guys can vet that sounds way more impressive on paper than in real life. So I'm not going to go down the whole rabbit hole of everything that, I used to do. But one of the things that is pretty common. Real estate investors aren't just real estate investors, especially new investors. I have students that have 9 to 5 jobs. They invest in real estate, but they're using real estate just to fund whatever their dream is on the entrepreneur side. So a lot of the training for that we're putting together that is going to be complementary to real estate investing has to do with the mindset, um, the challenge with taking that leap. Not a leap as in quitting your job to go, try to be an entrepreneur. I'm talking about the leap, just that one step from I can't do it to maybe I can do it. And it's the procrastination that keeps people from meeting their objective on the entrepreneurship side. So we're gonna tackle, a few of those today. I've got 20 of them, and then we'll see where it goes from there. I don't know how long I'm going to be on this morning because I didn't really. I mean, this is one room I just scheduled last night. I said, yeah, this would be a good idea after having a conversation with somebody. So now, Rose, you're going to be familiar with some of these things because you're an entrepreneur. Am I right?
Yes, I am.
All right. What was the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur for you, sis?
Ooh. Um, the hardest, well, coming from my space, I came with a little bit of knowledge.
Wait, did you say
Um,
coming from my space or your
well,
space?
MySpace.
Like the
Not
like?
MySpace.com.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. I was like, okay, you was a OG in the game.
What?
All right.
Well, coming from my industry, I came with some knowledge. So, and then I also came with the perspective of serving. You know, and this is just my opinion. I think a lot of struggle come from, profiting from their business. When you focus more on trying to profit, which is the goal, right? It is the goal. Um, but from the heart, wanting to serve people, it makes it a lot more easier wanting to serve, because the profit comes right after. But I would tell you this: the the struggles that I've had was just going in with the knowledge that I have. Like I just said earlier or a moment ago, that I came from this industry, so I had a little bit of knowledge. But what I've learned through experience is that the knowledge that I have didn't apply to everyone. So I did have some hiccups along the way. But what I've learned with those hiccups is to correct it,
Okay.
right? Correct it as we go. A lot of people don't focus on correcting to correct, to help with the customer journey,
Yeah.
because it's very important. And I think you said this last week about the customer journey.
Yes.
That is, as an entrepreneur, that is the main focus. If you guys ever notice when you get a survey from a company that you just patronize, or a company that you just patronize, and they'll ask you, how is our service? And they ask you a series of questions. It's not that they just want to be nosy. They really want to know what areas to improve. So
Mhm.
that way, the next customer that comes into their business will have a pleasant journey. It's all about that. It's customer retention, it's customer service. That is what keeps the business going, because if you don't focus on the customer and you focus more on the profit part,
Yes.
there's a disconnect between you and the customer when you
Amen.
put money first. Yes.
All right. So the number one reason people don't start is fear of failure. What if it doesn't work? What if I lose money? What if I embarrass myself? That is the number one reason that people don't start. And I had to deal with a similar, and it doesn't matter how far you get, right? It doesn't matter how high up the mountaintop you get. There's always a component of that. And for me, it was when we started the 4 Data Points Academy. It was, we were investor centric, right? So we weren't focused on profit. We were focused on the outcome, and the outcome is how can we guarantee somebody's going to become a real estate investor. And what we did was we did it. We were competing with people that were charging, $25,000 a year, $35,000 a year to give people this education. So for us to do it at the price point that we were doing it at, the first thing we had to do was I had to figure out a way to supplement the program with real estate investing. But if real estate investing goes bad, the market can change, interest rates can start going crazy, whatever it is, then we're going to be in a really tough situation. But for me, we grew too big, too popular, too fast, in my opinion. Not too fast, but faster than I think is normal. So we were already visible to everyone, and there were certain organizations who felt that we were taking food off their table, and we were. And not that we were actively looking to steal anybody's clients, but the more people knew about us, why would they go somewhere else, right? Why would you pay 25, $35,000 a year where you can do it for, well, now 6,000 to 15, depending on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So there was always somebody out there looking at us with a microscope, just checking the optics so that they could say, see, that organization is not who you guys thought it was. Oh, this is not who you thought he was. See, you guys all like this guy there. So there was always that pressure of trying to be perfect in every aspect of what it is. And failure was just not an option. Right. And we took on so much liability as far as, because we put, people in our real estate family, we'll put groups together just to keep up investing. Now, every investment's not going to go well, right? So what happens when one doesn't go well? So we took on that liability, and it was just a lot of pressure. There's certain things we just weren't going to be able to fail at. But that's the number one, fear of failure. And when I talk to somebody that is, I can kind of see them going through that fear of failure situation, I asked them to reflect. I said, what specific outcome are you afraid of? And have you ever failed before and still recovered? That's the thought process that we impart on other people when they're going through the same thing, because that's what somebody told me. Like, what's the worst that could happen? I think I was working on another venture. I don't know what it was, but you guys will meet a gentleman by the name of Dr. Alfred Smith, who's a part of our organization, and he is going to be leading up the personal development component of the 4 Data Points Academy under the program called Ascend You. And, the reason why I brought him in is because I always wanted to build a program around him because of what he did for me. And I think that there's only, I think when you start, talking about motivating people, but you don't have um, any information about the practical application of the things that you're saying, right? And you're just left with think positive. I think that brings a disservice to people. And Alfred had gotten me through some pretty tough times, and he doesn't give himself enough credit because he says he told me, he said, look, you do all the you when we talk, you do all the talking, and then through your talking, you come up with your own solution. And I play a very small part in it, but he'll ask the right questions. And that was one of the questions he asked. What outcome are you afraid of? Or what's the worst that can happen? Right. And then when I started thinking, what is the worst that could happen? I've already been through everything. I've been bankrupt before. I've lost everything and built it back twice before. So that's number one, fear of failure. All right. What do you think number two is, Rose?
you know what? While
Num-
you were talking, I
num-
was like,
Number two is walking away from the phone and not being able to find your Bluetooth.
listen, I'm getting ready for church. Okay.
I'm
All
just
right.
kidding. All right, go ahead.
Uh,
Perfectionism. Perfectionism
perfectionism. Yes.
is a big one. All right, perfectionism is a big one, and that is just and that is me 100%. And there are many times where I just had to say, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. Right, it's not gonna be perfect. And this was, and I experienced this when we were looking the marketing that we do. We don't do any paid marketing. We're just getting into that now, right? So everything that we did was word of mouth, social media, and just that was it, right? Maybe we'll do clubhouse rooms and all. You guys will hear me speaking on different platforms like this, in different places. So there wasn't a lot of marketing. So I said, you know what, I'm going to outsource the marketing and outsource the designs for all the postings and all that stuff. And nobody could get it right. And I would try to create opportunities for people and pay people to do it, and nobody would. It was just hard to find somebody that was willing to work like I needed them to work at it. So I said, you know what? Fine, I'll just go in there and figure it out. I went to school for graphic design back in the day. I started, I didn't finish. I went to school for graphic design. Let me get in Canva and start seeing what it is. And a year or two later, now I'm a freaking master in there, right? But I didn't want to put anything out until it was perfect. And time kills dreams, right? Time kills dreams. So I was one of those people who thought, everything has to be perfect before starting the logo, the website, the product. So, it got to a point where it was delaying me starting it all. So that's the number two reason that people don't start their business. And you guys will start seeing a theme. You guys will start understanding a theme. And the theme is just do it, right? If you're scared, do it scared. Right. So when we reflect on number two, perfectionism, look
Can I
at, go ahead, Rose.
can I add a perspective? Okay, so and he's right. Perfectionism it will stop you from going because you're trying to figure out when is the right time. But when is the right time? Ask yourself that. But if you kind of look at, I have an Apple product. I know you do too, Otis. Think of
Yes.
it like every product that we have. I know some of us are so tired of updates, but guess what? The updates are coming from user experience, right? You would never know. You would think that once you packaged everything and this is right and it's out there, there's always going to be a problem. The customer is going to say, well, this and that. They're going to always find something along in their journey, especially if you don't test it out yourself. But think of it like this: you're going to start with version one, and it's going to perfect itself. And every correction, every updates that you do, there's another version to it until it becomes perfect. But nothing in life is perfect. But just correct as you go. Just get it going because the experience is going to come from the customer. They're going to tell you what they want next. They're going to tell you what's happening, and then you just correct it as you go. So don't let perfection stop you from starting. Get it going now.
Yeah, I think there's probably one or two things that you may want to perfect that, in every business, right? Because, I can understand, logo design and your Instagram postings and all these other things, but things like getting your domain, right? Like your email address is something you're going to be using for the entire duration that your business exists. So that's worth putting a little bit of thought into, as a professional. And that's just one I see all the time. As a professional, if somebody emails me and it's like at Gmail or Yahoo or whatever, or
True.
Lord help us AOL.com, then I don't really it's hard for me to take them serious as a business, because if they didn't put thought into that detail, then how much thought can I expect them to put in to the business that we're going to be doing together? So that was a big one for me also. The third one, right? We were talking about the 20 reasons people don't start businesses. The first is fear of failure. The second is perfectionism. The third one is imposter syndrome. That is a huge one, and you'd be surprised at the people that still experience imposter syndrome even when they reach a certain level, right? And it impacted the way that I was teaching people, because no one wanted to get out of their comfort zone, because once they got out of their comfort zone, they felt like they didn't no longer belonged, right? They felt like they were faking it, trying to make it. So I said, okay, well, how about we just expand people's comfort zone so they never have to get out of it, right? And that was how we were trying to combat imposter syndrome in my circles, right? Not just teaching people how to invest in real estate or entrepreneurship, but even in the corporate environment. And I've experienced that at times also. I was in I was in the multifamily commercial industry, and I was at the corporate level. So it was my job overseeing. I was overseeing about 3,000 units. So this is about $650 million in multifamily commercial real estate that I was responsible for making sure that it was profitable. And I would go to these different ownership group meetings. And when I first started in that role, it was like when you go around and look at the education level of a lot of these folks. We had Stanford graduates. These are old school Stanford graduates, Penn State, University of Illinois, Harvard. Some of these folks worked at the White House, and then there was me, and good old Otis with still needs 6 credits to graduate junior college. All right. But fortunately for me, I'm a real estate guy, and I'd already had businesses, and these guys were, corporate guys. They've worked a job most of their lives. And I got over that imposter syndrome really, really fast. And I think what did it was I knew that no one was going to outwork me. I knew nobody was going to be able to outwork me. I don't care where you went to school at. You've got to have a certain level of grit to compete with me, right? And I was doing enough outside of that because you guys know I was overseeing that portfolio. I was a real estate broker. I was already mentoring people. I was already investing, all over the country. I was already consulting on foreign uh, projects in other countries. So I was a seasoned real estate guy. So that imposter syndrome went away really, really quick the more we started talking about real estate, and the more I was able to start implementing ideas in areas that they didn't have experience in, right? And just to give you guys some clarity, the ownership group owns the real estate, and then they hire a company to manage. And it's different ownership groups for this entire 3,000 unit portfolio that I was tasked with making sure was profitable. So, you know, it went away quick because I was in my area of expertise, uh, but it still it never fully goes away, and I think people expect it to at some point, right? You guys know, some of you guys have seen me in some of these different venues, and they'll call me, and I'll go talk about real estate on some of these stages or some of these conferences, and that's I don't want to say it's I'm very, very comfortable up there. I'm very, very comfortable up there. But there's been times where I had to speak on something that wasn't real estate, that I wasn't 100% familiar with, or there's been times where I experienced some success that came really, really easy. And I was speaking on that in environments where people had achieved the same level of success, but it worked 10, 15, 20 years to get there. So I felt like, I didn't belong there. You guys know that I usually say this in my intro, but I took $585 and went and created a company that went on to generate 7 figures. And I outsourced everything, and I only spent about 4 hours a month on that on that company. It was really like an afterthought. But in that circle, there were other people that were kind of doing something similar. And when we would all get together, they would talk about the journey and how they got there. And me, I'm like, well, no, it took me like literally 20 minutes to put that whole operation together. So I was experiencing some serious imposter syndrome because that was not a real estate space, right? So it never goes away. So if you have imposter syndrome, if that's something that you're struggling with, this is probably where you want to reflect. You don't feel qualified even though you are. That's imposter syndrome. Okay. Keep in mind, even though you are is the second point. So I ask people, what evidence do you have that you're ready? And who told you that you weren't? All right. But those are all the limiting beliefs that tend to creep up in every single thing that we do, right? You never outgrow it. Let me see. King says, can this be another fear of starting a business? As many businesses as one could start, for how long? King, I'm not sure I understand that question. So if you want to rephrase, I would be glad to answer that, or feel free to just come up and you're more than welcome to come up on stage for the TikTok folks. All right. So that was number 3. Number 1 was fear of failure. Number 2 was perfectionism. Number 3 was imposter syndrome. Number 4 was close, fear of judgment. Worried about what friends, family, or social media think if they fail, or even if they succeed. Now, this was something I just never cared about. So you guys are going to find that some of these are, may impact you, and some of them you're like, oh, that's not even a thought for me, right? But fear of judgment. And I tell people you're not going to be as successful as you want to until you stop caring what people think. And when you care what people think, one, it's expensive. It costs you something, right? Because you're navigating not by your own map, but by the perceived thoughts of everybody else. And it's a much longer trip than if you just did what you needed to do, right? So, the fear of judgment is probably something that is influenced by all of the junk you guys see on social media, right? Social media, just media, period. Mhm. So when people are struggling with fear of judgment, so how do we reflect? So if people are struggling with a fear of judgment, and most of the time it comes from, close friends and family, I say, whose opinion are you worried about most? And then I ask, why does their opinion carry weight? Period. And that's a very, very quick conversation. All right. But all of these things have to do with procrastination. All right. All of these things boil down to procrastination. I talk to people that have a really, really good idea about something. And so there's been a couple times where somebody came to me, they were like, look, I got this really, really good idea. I said, all right, well, tell me about it. And I agree. I said, that's a really, really good idea. When are you going to start it? Well, I don't know. I'll probably start it next week. I'm like, what? It's Sunday. Why don't you start it today? Why are you waiting until next week? I just got some things I'm gonna do. And this, I say, but you are going to start it. Yes. Yeah, I am. Okay. I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you 60 days to start it. And in 60 days, I'm going to start it. And you're going to have to look at me for the rest of your life successful off of the idea that you gave me. And it's going to be a constant reminder that you didn't start when you said you would. Now, I never actually really started. I'm just trying to put a fire under somebody. But that is a very important component of this whole challenge, this whole mindset, right? Fear of judgment. Number 5, people get overwhelmed. People get overwhelmed because they don't have a roadmap, period. That's why you get overwhelmed. You don't have a roadmap. You don't have a plan. You don't have any direction. And this was one of the reasons that we put Venture U together, right? Because I understand what it's like to be overwhelmed. And sometimes I got to create my own map or my own list based on what's happening that day just to get back focused. So when people are starting their business and they're feeling overwhelmed, I say, stop everything and let's come up with a plan. All right, let's come up with a plan. I look at where they're at, and then we prioritize what's important, what's not important. Well, what's important? Well, sales and marketing is important because sales drives everything. Okay, well, let's put our time and energy on things that are going to generate $1, and then we'll back into everything else. So when we did this Venture U down in Medellin, Colombia, when we put it together, it's in October. The goal is to give everybody a plan that's specific enough so they don't have to feel overwhelmed. So what does that mean? That means an intake. That means understanding what it is that they're trying to do. And that means bringing in a consultant for every aspect of business that an entrepreneur is going to need. So there is no feeling of, being overwhelmed. Now, you can be overwhelmed even with the plan. Procrastination could leave you overwhelmed because you know what to do. You're just not doing it. And that stuff starts to pile up. So that can be overwhelming also. So just know that's number 5. It's the 5th reason that people don't start businesses. Rose, anybody, you guys got anything you want to add to that? I think Kimberly Robinson. Go ahead, Kimberly Robinson. I see you in the chat. I'm gonna keep it brief, Kimberly, so you don't get carpal tunnel trying to repeat all this stuff in the chat over there on Clubhouse. All right. So what else? Scarcity mindset. This is a poor person's mindset too, by the way. So a scarcity mindset, they focus on what they don't have. Not enough money, not enough time, not enough connections, instead of what's possible with what they do have. Now, this isn't just for entrepreneurship. This is in investing also. And where I'm at now, if funds are running low, like let's say, I go in my account and I don't keep a lot in there anyway, but let's say I'm down to 5 grand on, oh, what's up, Kim? Both platforms, go ahead. Let's say I'm down to 5 grand. Okay. S- I've got invoices and all types of stuff that need to be taken care of. Let's just call them overall bills, right? I'm not going to hold on to that 5 grand. I'm going to deploy that 5 grand so I can make some more money. That's the opposite of a scarcity mindset. A scarcity mindset says, well, this 5 grand is all I have, so I don't want to spend it. All right. And that's really hard to break out of, especially when people have experienced economic trauma, right? Going broke, being poor, there's trauma associated with that. And what's even worse is when you build up a level of success and then lose it all and have to start from zero. That's there's trauma. So that's a real thing, right? So scarcity mindset. And that spills over into a lot of other areas, not just in real estate investing, but in general business, right? Referrals. If I have, so we do loans here at the 4 Data Points Academy. We do it primarily for our students, but we do the hard money, so I can actually look at the investing deal as an investor and not just a lender, so we can add, more service, right? We don't do VA loans and we don't do conventional loans. So now I could get my NMLS license and set up that operation, but I've got a group that already has it mastered. Good friend of mine, Anthony Glenn. You guys know the Win in Real Estate uh, crew down there in Southern California. So I just refer people to them. A scarcity mindset, I would try to keep it all for myself, right? Some of you guys also know me and Anthony Glenn are like we're like brothers, and there's some overlap in what we do. They've got an investing course that they offer. It's short term, and I have a long term mentorship program. He doesn't. We refer each other to these different programs. There's just no scarcity mindset there, and that's why we're able to accomplish so much more together because there is no scarcity mindset. All right, compliment somebody else. All right. You don't have to get every dollar ain't for you. Every client ain't for you. Every customer is not for you. So number 6, reason people don't start, scarcity mindset. They don't have enough money, time, or connections. That's why I love real estate investing, because I can teach somebody how to move forward despite having not enough money, not enough time, and not enough relationships. Now, or credit. Now, if you don't have any of them, that's gonna be a little tough. You got to be real seasoned for that, right? But I'm gonna get you there. Number 7 reasons why people don't start businesses: lack of self belief. This, I don't know how this is number 7. This should be number 1 for me. Deep down, they don't believe they're the kind of person who could be a boss or build something real. I'm going to read that again. Number 7 reasons people don't start their businesses is deep down, they don't believe that they're the kind of person that can be a boss or build something real. And I come across that when I'm dealing with more in women than anything else. I've dealt with some women that have come out of some tough situations, tough relationships, so their self portrait is a little bit impacted. And, I've had to talk them, through what we may think is just a simple lack of belief, but, they've experienced some trauma with respect to how their partner treated them and just made them feel about themselves. That's a tough one, right? So I always start with, okay, well, where do we reflect when somebody is going through a lack of self-belief? I ask them, where did this story come from? Is it true, or is it just old programming, right? And again, folks, I'm not a qualified therapist, but I've been through enough to have experienced a level of all of these at some point. And I've had to talk myself through it, so I just talk other people through some of these things the same way that I talk myself through it. Doesn't mean we ought to be out here reckless now, though. Absolutely. Well, that goes without saying. I mean, we should all be acting like adults with a certain level of professionalism. We should always be seeking guidance. We shouldn't just rush into something, anything. Right. Number eight. Number 8 reason why people don't start businesses: attachment to security. Attachment to security. this can be misinterpreted a lot. And I hear a lot of people minimizing, what do they say? Your 2 week paycheck is, what is it? Is that your company paying you to forget your dream or something like that? That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. So, attachment to security. We're all attached to security because it's comfortable. And the idea of leaving a steady paycheck, even if you hate it, it feels too risky to a lot of people. And I don't fault anybody for that. I've had the luxury of having, some situations to fall back on before leaving corporate. So I didn't have to make that, amen, Lakeisha. So I didn't have to make that jump. And because I didn't have to make that jump, it was really, really easy for me. But what if I was, a single parent where if this doesn't work, it doesn't just impact me, it impacts maybe a little one or some other people that I'm responsible for. That's a really huge move to make, right? So I don't want to minimize that attachment to security. It's our job to make sure our children, feel safe and protected, and that means financially too. So I get that. Now, these are reasons that just because these are reasons that people don't start businesses doesn't mean that they're not valid reasons, right? These are just the reasons. And, you know, it's good to talk to somebody when you've realized that you're experiencing one of these things, but sometimes we don't. And that's how limiting beliefs work a lot of the time. And this is important. That's how limiting beliefs work. Because what happens is, in order for us to not have to confront whatever it is that we fear, or we'll generate a story, right? And I'll give you an example. Let me see if I can explain this a little better. Um, in real estate, as a real estate professional, you would, there would be times where you would knock on doors and just to go get new clients, prospecting a particular area, letting them know who you are, giving them your card or flyer. If you got an open house in the area, you would knock on doors. And I didn't know I was doing this, but I told people I don't knock on doors. At some point in my life, that was a policy that I gave myself. I don't know when it started. I don't know where it came from, but I said, well, I don't knock on doors. And then I live in the San Francisco Bay Area on the peninsula. So on the peninsula, there's not a whole lot of people that look like me in my city. So my story that I told myself was I don't knock on doors because somebody seeing me through the peephole at 5, 6 o'clock is, they may not be, they may get a little nervous. I have no data to support that. I have zero data to support that would happen. I've never been mistreated in my city. I've never been, treated with a lack of respect. So where did that come from? So I really had to examine that because I just happened to be sitting at my office one day, like, where did that come from? Right? Like, why do I believe that would be the outcome? And what it is it's a certain aspect of who we are that doesn't want to be confronted with the fact that we're not good enough. So even though I said, well, I don't knock on doors and I had this whole story, the truth was that's a fear of rejection. And so why would I have a fear of rejection? Right? Where would that come from? Then I had to put a lot more thought into it. Somebody that looks like me, I'm talking about black folks. We always say looks like me. I'm talking about a black person in this country. Ever since we're little, we've been conditioned through media and movies, all this stuff, to believe that we are less than, period, right? We're getting killed for, the way we look and even as a kid, we're seeing these in movies and images and history in school, right? And not realizing that all of the exposure to that negativity gets deposited into our subconscious and then develops into a story later in life to keep us from having to confront the fact that we may not be good enough. I had no idea all that was going on. But now that I figured that out, now that I can see that, now I could kill it. All right. Now, if I was now, I don't knock on doors just because I can't justify the time. But so I still not knocking on doors. But I had to really examine why that was. And I believe all of us have a story that we tell ourselves about something that we don't want to confront head on. All right. So number 8 was attachment to security. Let me do a quick recap. We're going over 20 reasons people don't start businesses, right? The first, fear of failure. The second was perfectionism. The third reason was imposter syndrome. The fourth was fear of judgment. The fifth was feeling overwhelmed. The sixth was a scarcity mindset. The seventh Seventh was a lack of self-belief. Let's call that a limiting belief. Number 8 was attachment to security. Number 9, I don't think we ever look. Number 9 is analysis paralysis. All right. We want all of the information. We never feel like we have enough information to be able to make a decision. Now, this is one of the determining factors when we look at people who are successful and people who are not. I can make a decision off 70% of the information. Okay. If things go bad because of my decision, when I reflect, I ask myself one question. Given the information that I had at the time, would I have made the same decision? And if it's yes, then brush my hands of it and keep moving. All right. But analysis paralysis, you guys know the type. You've read every blog, you've watched every YouTube video, you've taken every course except the one where they actually take action. All right. And still don't move. So that's something that as a mentor, we have to get over also. Right. And how I get over that when I'm mentoring somebody, it says, all right, let's get a piece of paper. It's typically a knowledge gap that has to be filled. It's not a resources gap. It's typically a knowledge gap. And in real estate investing, we can play with resources, right? Like I could teach you how to buy a house with zero money out of your own pocket. Doesn't mean the house is free. Doesn't mean it doesn't cost money after the fact, but I can teach you how to get one. So when people have this analysis paralysis, we have to simplify things as much as possible. And I knew people were going to have analysis paralysis when getting into real estate. That's why we came up with the 4 data points. 4 numbers. I'm sorry. Well, I guess they are 4 numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? 4 questions that we ask every time that we're considering a subject property as a real estate investor. What does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? That is the cure for analysis paralysis as a person learning to invest in real estate, because you only focus on those 4 questions. And then it's my job to teach you how to interpret the answers to determine whether or not you want to move forward in this particular situation. But analysis paralysis is number 9. There is a way. If you have a mentor, you get analysis paralysis, then your mentor is doing you a disservice. You need to tell that mentor that, hey, I don't care what industry or field it is. You need to tell that mentor, hey, I'm feeling stuck. All right. Number 10, let me see. Coach David, this is a bot right here. Let me go ahead and delete that from the Clubhouse chat. Y'all want to invest in some crypto? We always get those people coming in saying, look, for just $300, you can make $4,000 investing in. Well, why ain't you doing it? If I was making $4,000 off of every 300, I wouldn't have time to. All right. That's just me being petty. Okay. What's the KISS acronym? Oh, keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. All right. Right on, King. All right. Number 10, waiting for permission. They subconsciously wait for somebody to say it's okay, whether it's a mentor, a spouse, a sign from the universe, a sign from God, instead of trusting themselves. Folks, you guys, I was in ministry for 3 years exclusively. And it was for anybody with any level of intelligence can see the issues that are, that with the church, right? With the church. I'm talking about overall. And I would have people. So this is, I don't know if I want to get into this. So this is the issue with the church. People get preached to and don't read the Bible for themselves. People get preached to and believe whatever they say, but don't read the Bible for themselves, even though the Bible tells us we should read it for ourselves. So somebody will say, and they do this all the time, just say you don't have the money. All right. It's old school church folks. They'll I've been in some conversations about coming to some churches and, doing a presentation or doing a workshop for some folks. And when it comes time to write the check in the church, this is what you hear. Well, let me pray on it. Now, a lot of these folks, I don't lead with the fact that I was ever in ministry. I don't lead with the fact that I grew up at the church. I don't lead with any of that. But if you say I'm gonna pray on it, see now you're invoking the word of God. So then I'm not gonna let you off the hook that easy. So I'm gonna come back. Okay, what is it specifically are you praying about? I'm gonna dissect it, and they're not ready for that question. I said, do you believe you're not supposed to be wealthy? Do you believe you don't have the power to be wealthy? God already gave it to you. You do know he already gave it to you, right? Deuteronomy 8:18. And then we start having that conversation. Then once you start peeling back the layers, it's, well, I just don't have the money to pay for it. Well, you should have said that at the beginning before you started bringing my father into the conversation. I'm sorry. That's probably petty, huh? I probably shouldn't. I probably shouldn't take it that far. But moving on. Anyway, but I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot. The church, we got some issues. Now I have some wealthy friends. Oh, bam! I can go all day. There's a whole. We did a whole 2 hour talk on, the Word of God and prosperity and all these. Anyway, I can. That's a whole nother conversation. So we're on the second half now. So the first 10 reasons that people don't start a business: fear of failure, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, fear of judgment, overwhelmed, scarcity mindset, a lack of self belief, their attachment to security. We're talking about attachment to that, 9 to 5 job, which is okay in my opinion. Analysis paralysis and waiting for permission. Right now, the second half. This is something that I've never experienced, but some of my wealthier friends have, and it's a fear of success. And it sounds backwards, but some people fear what will happen if it actually does work. The pressure, the visibility, more responsibility. Now, and there's been times where I wondered if I had this. I wondered if I had this. I've made some decisions in the past that I had to think back, like, do I have a fear of success? So some of you guys remember on one of these platforms, I think it was on Clubhouse, but that wasn't the only one. So I've been invited to be on TV multiple times. So, the shows you guys see on real estate shows you guys see on TV. So 2 times I've had opportunity to be on TV, and I just turned them down. Right, I turned them down because, one, I think I'm too old to care about that stuff, in my opinion. Like, I've been through the whole wannabe famous thing back in the day, and I was having a conversation with somebody, and they said, "Otis, you always say take advantage of every opportunity when it comes up. So why didn't you take advantage of that opportunity?" And then I had to think, do I have a fear of success? Do I have a fear? I started second guessing myself. And then I went back and thought about it a little bit. And the reason that I didn't take those opportunities is because I wasn't comfortable enough with those two groups wanting me to be a part of their plan, because I didn't feel like they respected me enough as their competition and a threat. That's why I didn't do it, because I didn't want to. That's what it was. Like, I'm not going to be on your show. You need to be worried about me taking your market cap. So that's what it was for me. But I had to think about it. Number 12 is a big one. I don't know how this is all the way down at number 12. Past failure or trauma. One failed idea, one bad partner, one loss, and they decided not to risk it again. I've got some people going through that right now. And I'm hoping they stay in this fight, man. I've got some students, that got a bad contractor. It was good in the beginning, and then just started seemed like every bad thing that could happen actually happened. I've actually had to fly down and, I had to get in this contractor's, well, I got somebody else working, communicating with the contractor now. It's been recommended that I have no direct contact with this contractor anymore. But, it was it's a situation where things can happen to where you experience that trauma. You're like, I'm not going to do it again. I was very fortunate. I was younger. I filed for bankruptcy. I lost everything. I lost houses, cars. I had to give away the furniture. Either they were just going to trash it. I couldn't even afford to store it. So I lost everything and had to start all the way over. And what seemed like something that sucked in the beginning ended up being one of the greatest, not experiences, because I didn't enjoy that experience, but there was so much education during that time period. It took me like 8 or 9 years to start, getting back on my feet from that. And that's part of the time I was in ministry too. But the experience from that, now I feel like, okay, I can go ahead and lose it again. I'll just build it back up and build it back up and build it back up. Again, I think that's one of the reasons why I flock to real estate investing, because, yeah, if you got 20% down on a project, it gets really, really easy. You can make all the money until the end of time. But what happens when things go bad? And I like real estate investing because there's always a way to figure it out when things do go bad, right? Always a way to figure it out. It's creative, structuring deals creatively. There's just so many revenue streams that people don't even appreciate because everybody's fixed on fix and flips and apartment buildings and all that stuff. All the stuff is necessary, but the creative stuff is, that's one of the things that allows me the confidence to be able to know I can bounce back from something if it goes bad. So that's number 12, past failure or trauma. I'm scanning for questions. If you guys have questions, feel free. We can do questions. You should have accepted the Oprah invite. I didn't get an Oprah invite, Ellis. I probably would have jumped on that one. All right. Number 13 reasons why people don't start businesses. Lack of support system. Oh, this is my favorite. Lack of support system. Surrounded by people who just don't get it. That isolation makes big dreams feel out of reach. You better be able to do it. You better learn to do it alone if you're going to be an entrepreneur. I don't care what your situation is. You better be ready to go alone. If you're the type that constantly needs validation, you're going to have to get over that really, really quick. And sometimes you need to go forward, not even knowing if it's going to work, if it's going to be successful. You got to go forward just for the sake of going forward. A lot of people don't realize that. And that's enough to take a lot out of somebody. I'll give you an example. Without saying names, there's been times where, we would do, so we used to do, I was doing like 12 to 15 cities a year. And that is doing workshops at all these different cities. I mean, I'm talking about, we would hit Oakland. And this is when, at one point, before we were doing the larger workshops, I was only doing the boardroom workshops. So I take max 12, 13 people max, right? Even that was a lot. 10 was about comfortable. And we would go to, these different hotels, and it was about $400 or $500 to be in that room. And I would teach them for 8 hours, right? And it evolved into some larger workshops. Now, these workshops, I'll have people come out. Sometimes I'll have my students come out and help. And sometimes I'll have, some of our organization, come out and help. And we're talking about lack of support system. As an entrepreneur, you are funding I'm doing all this out of pocket. So I'm paying for everything, hotels and food and the venue and all that. And there would be times where I would be sitting there and looking around, and I was like, I just don't see the sense of urgency, right? People are supposed to be back in their seats at this particular time. I don't see, and as an entrepreneur, that can really get to you, right? And then you have to consider, man, am I overreacting? Is it so? That's probably one of the most difficult things about being an entrepreneur is nobody is going to show the enthusiasm as much as you, right? Like no one has it as much as you. And that's enough to take some people out. I've seen it ruin relationships. I've seen it just cause all kinds of havoc, right? Putting a team together and people having to fire family members and all of this stuff. Look, I will say this. You need to be able to go 100% alone, regardless of what people think, regardless of how you feel. You need to be able to do that. I think that is one of the attributes that make successful entrepreneurs successful, right? All right. Number 14, we're almost done. Comparison trap. All of us fall into this one. I still fall into this one. So comparison trap, looking at others who are further along and thinking, man, I'm not going to catch up to this dude. And I'll give you guys an example. So there's another company that kind of does what I do, what kind of does what the 4 Data Points Academy does, but they do it. They're different. It's not a long-term professional relationship. I guess it's long-term if you keep paying every year. But they have you invest in their deals, and it's just it's a different business model, right? And I was on the phone with one of those guys, the number 2 guy over there, and they wanted to help me. They wanted to help me scale up, and they said, "Look, man, we can see what you're doing. We love what you're doing. Checked all your reviews. Everybody seems to love what you're doing. Look, we can help you scale up by doing X, Y, and Z. Why don't you fly out? We're having a party and blah blah blah." And I let the guy give me a spiel, and I told him, I said, "Look, man, I don't expect you to understand, right? But where I'm going, I already knew where I was going. I know where I'm going. Where I'm going, I need to get to that mountaintop so that I can turn around and show everybody that I can do it 100% on my own. If I'm mentoring people and I need you to help me get there, what type of message is that sending to them? And plus, something that I hold even more valuable, your all of the trials and tribulation and the bad things and all of that stuff that happens to you on your way up as an entrepreneur, I call that the seasoning process. I call it the seasoning process because I have an appreciation for all of those bad things. And when I look at where I am now, it's not because of all the things that went well, it's because of all of the things that went bad and the growth that came along with that. And now I'm able to function in environments where 20 years ago probably would have took me out. I probably would have been too discouraged because I didn't have the resilience built up yet. And I told this guy, I said, I don't want you guys to rob me of that. Right. I've been through some situations where things looked bad financially. Like things got bad. And I've got some rich friends and they would call me and be, and, we would talk casually. They said, just how much do you need? Just how much do you need? What do you need? I'll write you a check. What do you need? I said, you must be crazy. You think I am? This is my journey to go on. I'm not going to allow you to rob me of whatever's going to happen as a result of me not being able to perform at a certain level. Absolutely not. I'm not even built that way. I'll get offended if you ask me that. It was like, all right. And I always pull through. Something always happens. And that builds my confidence. So now when, the clouds start coming, I can say, oh, I'm already built for this. Right? I'm already built for this. But we're talking about the comparison trap. So when I go online and I'm seeing these guys in airplanes and boats and doing all this stuff, and I'm like, well, this guy, like this company is not even they can't hold a candle to what we do, right? That's why they call it a trap. That's why they call it a comparison trap. You only see the outcome that they present to the world. You don't see behind the veil. I see behind the veil a lot, and sometimes I have to check myself. I know how much overhead they got. I already know that. I already know that yacht ain't owned. Good morning. Okay. All right. So comparison trap. That's number 14. Comparing yourself to other people, thinking, man, I'm not as far along as they are. A lot of people online are lying. And by a lot, I would say, if I had to guess, and I'm guessing, I have no data to support this, but most people online, if I had to put money on it, I'd bet 90% of the people are lying because the most of the time the math ain't mathing. And as somebody that's been involved in real estate my entire life, I've been exposed to real estate. I was exposed to real estate when I was in my mother's womb. How, that's how long I've been exposed to real estate. You can kind of see past these things. But E-Man says 98%. I feel you, player. It's just you get to see past these things, right? I can look at how somebody says something in the real estate space and see if they really believe that or they just Googled something and now they want to do a podcast. And I see that all the time, folks. I, it's not just these platforms that I'm on. I'm on multiple platforms, and I field questions a lot, and I fielded really basic questions from some people, and then switch to another platform and happen to be scrolling and see them doing a podcast on the questions that I was answering for them as if they were the experts in that area. And I just laugh it off. I'm like, okay, buyer beware, right? As long as they're not, charging people money and doing bad stuff, all right, I have no problem with that, right? But stay away from the comparison trap, number 14. Number 15, stuck identity. This is a big one. They still see themselves as an employee, a helper, a beginner, not a leader or a creator. This is tough. And I know I'm going to mess this up when I articulate this. I know I'm going to mess this up. So I'm going to ask for your forgiveness. I'm going to ask for your forgiveness right now before I articulate this because I got a problem with it. So stuck identity. Look, everybody wants to be number one. That is one of the biggest challenges with putting a team together. Everybody wants to be number one. Now, this is more prevalent in men than in women. As a matter of fact, I don't see this in women hardly at all. But again, I'm having more conversations about this particular thing with men than I am with women. So I don't have any actual data to support this because my experience is lopsided. My exposure to these conversations is lopsided with the different sexes. But I will say some people are better number twos. Some people are better number twos. Some people aren't built to be number one. And it's not up to me to tell somebody they're not. I would never do that. I would never tell somebody you're not built to be number one. But I can look and see how some people move, and I can see they're not built to be number one. At best, they'll be number two. All right. And I got an appreciation for being a number two. I would love being somebody's number two. Being number one is not a that's that's a I don't if you see somebody glamorizing that, right, or sensationalizing that, I don't think they're really doing it. I don't think they're really doing it. Being number one is a burden. Being number two, that's made in the shade. I will get this list to you guys when we're done, and I may even the notes that I have the actual list because I'm doing this discussion elsewhere, but I also have some support in how to resolve these issues, kind of a thought process to resolve all of these issues. So I'll go back over them again, right? We'll go over the 20, then we'll go back over the 20 and see, all right, well, how do we combat these issues if this is something that is impacting us? Okay. So for those that are just coming in, this is 20 reasons people don't start their business. Right. And the last one was stuck identity. They still see themselves as an employee, a helpy, a beginner, not a leader or a creator. And I wish I could understand when people are feeling that way because it's hard to. Anyway, let's go to the next one. That's what we're going to come back to stuck identity. Number 16 is information overload. Too many strategies, too many voices, too many gurus, no clear plan, no clear start. We are in one of the best ages to be alive in the history of life itself, technology wise. All right. So information overload is really easy. And it's really easy to have happen. But luckily, we're able to organize information now that we couldn't 5 years ago. All right. Even my own lessons, I'll organize. I'll go into Chat GPT or Gemini. I'll take 5 lessons that I did, and I would say, look, pretend you're just getting into real estate investing. Where are the knowledge gaps here, and how can I simplify this even more? And what areas in this lesson warrant more focus? And because I'm always trying to redo my lessons and improve them and make them more user friendly. Um, that's just something that's never going to. What's up? What's up, sis? Come on up. That's just something that's never going to stop. And being able to organize the information is what makes the information effective, right? And you guys know me. I don't like organizing a whole bunch of. Look, 4 data points. I can remember 4 things. There's a reason why it's the 4 Data Points Academy. We can remember these 4 things and we can beat them to death, right? We can master these 4 questions. So I like simplicity, right? I love simplicity because it combats information overload. What's up, Danielle?
Hey there, good morning. How you doing? Hey
What's
everyone.
your pastor called me. He said you didn't show up to church today.
Listen, I'm meditating on the word this morning. That's why I'm coming on late.
He told me you would say that. He said, "Don't let her say she meditating on the word. We got her search history. We could hack into her." I'm just kidding. We talk about entrepreneurship. We're talking about 20 reasons people don't start their business, and I'll do a quick recap, and you can tell me. You can start thinking about if any of these apply to you. The number one was fear of failure. Number two was perfectionism. Number three was imposter syndrome. Number four is fear of judgment. Number five is they're overwhelmed. Number six, scarcity mindset, right? Meaning they focus on what they don't have, not enough money, time, connection, stuff like that. Lack of self belief. Number seven, attachment to security. And by security, we typically mean financial security, a job. Number nine was analysis paralysis. Number 10 was waiting for permission. So they subconsciously wait for somebody to say it's okay, whether it's a mentor, spouse, or whoever. Sign from God. Number 11 was fear of success. Number 12 was past failure or trauma. Number 13 was a lack of support system. Number 14, the comparison trap, looking at others who are further along, thinking I'll never catch up. Number 15, stuck identity. They still see themselves as an employee, a helper, a beginner. And number 16, I think that's where we're at now. Information overload, too many strategies, too many voices, too many gurus. Oh my goodness. Where did the name guru come from? I see that thrown out. Everybody's a guru. I don't understand why so many people want to pretend they know something that they're not actually experts in. where's the gratification from that? I would think that that would be more anxiety than anything, because wouldn't you be worried about being found out? You get into it just takes one conversation for people to realize you're not who you say you are. Anyway,
Right.
so Danielle, you've been impacted by any of those?
Oh, absolutely. Um,
What's your biggest?
I don't know what number one it was, but what number it was, but being overwhelmed.
Hmm.
Um, Definitely not having the support system and the one that you're on now.
Amen. Amen. We're gonna fix that. We're gonna fix that today. You would. You
Okay.
probably already fixed it because
You
you had
gonna
to get
deliver
through
it?
it.
I'm about to get delivered. Okay.
You had to get through it at some point. So yeah, we go. You already through it, but we gonna get somebody else through it. We gonna get somebody else through it today. Number 17, and I was surprised that that my friend, you guys know Anthony. You know Anthony. I'm surprised that he experienced this. Number 17 is guilt. Is it selfish to pursue something for me? And he said that he had to go through this. We were down there, we were talking, and he was like, "Man, all the success, man. I feel guilty about it sometimes." And I was like, you did. Um, and I was trying to get, the thought process behind that. And that was just one of them that I didn't understand, because he's, a successful guy, right? I mean, where's, we're sitting in a fire pit in $1 million backyard overlooking orchards and all types of other stuff. And he talking about, man, I feel guilty. He said it on this platform. That's the only reason I'm repeating it, because he actually said it in front of you guys before. And so we had to talk about that, and he kind of went into it, and it made me realize we all struggle with different things, right? We all struggle with different things, and some things may apply to other people that don't apply to you, and vice versa. And I thought that was interesting, especially for parents or caregivers, right? Is it selfish to pursue something for me? I think the parenting conversation can make it a little complicated, because your children are supposed to be your priority, but there also has to be a balance, because if you do something for you, you can create a better environment for your children. And where does it tip, right? Me as a father, sometimes I have to choose between, you know, throwing the ball around outside and hanging out, or, getting on here and, having some conversations with some folks to make some things happen. And that's the only time I felt guilt, when I was putting more behind work than family. Um, so yeah, so that's a tough one. That's one that I can actually relate to as a parent, but I've never felt guilt for being, successful, because I put the work in to do it, and I've always been willing to show other people how to do it. It's just back in the day when my rookie card was out, nobody was listening, right? Nobody cared. And now the conversations, and these are folks that were in my circle back in the day. I've been preaching this stuff for I don't know how long. Now they want to have the conversation. The only difference is it's not no longer a free conversation. Now it's a $15,000 conversation, and I don't budge. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was on mute. Sorry. Did I say was I? Did y'all hear all that? I'm just
We
kidding.
heard it.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Waiting for enough. I'll start when I have enough money, enough time, enough experience, but enough never arrives. This is tough for people to absorb, because if they're talking to me, this is what people don't realize. Look, some people mistake a sales pitch for, actually, I got it backwards. Some people mistake people telling you what you need to hear for a sales pitch, right? And I don't like having a lot of these conversations in the context of a discovery call, because I feel if I tell people what they actually need to hear, one, it could rub them the wrong way. And two, they may question my motives. Oh, well, he's just telling me that because he wants to sell me something, right? So most of the time, I just let the water seek its own level, give them as much information as I can about what we do, and then I'll let them get away with whatever excuse that they have, if they have an excuse, because it's not a conversation that I want to be in that context. But waiting for enough, it's never going to be enough. Never going to be enough, right? If you're stuck in that thought process, right? So first, we need to define, if we're stuck in that thought process, what is enough? Okay. Is it a dollar amount? Is it something that we can quantify? And if we can, what is our plan to get there? At least provide some clarity when you get into waiting for enough conversation. Now, number 19, and I can see why this is at the bottom. Understand or misunderstanding the process. This is the most common one for me as somebody that teaches people how to invest in real estate. Misunderstanding the process, because everybody misunderstands the process. If they understood the process, we wouldn't be talking. So it's my job to provide simplicity and clarification on what it is to be a real estate investor, right? So when you're teaching people, even on these platforms where we're just talking now, and we got Clubhouse and YouTube and the whatever other ones I got up right now, TikTok. It's my job to make people understand the process and then show them how they can fit into that process based on their current situation, whether their financial situation, credit situation, life situation, whatever it is. So misunderstanding the process. They think successful people had it all figured out at the start and they feel behind when it's hard. That is all an illusion, folks. Somebody had to do it first. Matter of fact, the guy that was trying to get me to, have his organization come in and scale us up, he was a lot of his, and he was a good dude too, by the way. He was a good dude. I think he's the number 2 guy in that organization. I think he should go somewhere and be the number 1 guy in another organization. So I had a lot of respect for doing this presentation. So he wasn't being salesy or anything like that. He was just doing, what he was supposed to be doing. But I told him, I said, look, that's what it was. I got invited to this party, and this party was, it costs to go on this, this party. And the party was being sold as a networking opportunity. And, and to get on the boat, it was $12,000, right? To get into this party, $12,000 or $13,000, something like that. And, I understand what his typical client is. So I didn't fault him for this. So this is no shade on this guy. Again, this is, I actually like what they do. I like how they market and all that stuff. But I had to ask him, I said, well, what am I going to do on a boat? Well, you got access to, all the people you wouldn't normally have access to. I said, how do you know I don't have access to these people outside the boat? And then he went into, the importance of networking and stuff I already get, right? I don't think he realized I was as advanced as he thought. I don't think he realized like where I was on the scale, right? And I told him, I said, well, look, out of all those people on the boat, all of those folks that I have the potential of networking with, somebody had to go first. Somebody had to get there without somebody else. Somebody had to do it. Now I already see where I'm going. Like I don't need more clarity on where I'm going. I see where I'm going. I see exactly how to get there. Like I'm already there in my mind. So me networking, I don't necessarily see the value in that, for me, right? So anyway, I thought that that falls under misunderstanding the process in some way, shape, or form. Let's go to the last one. The last one, and you guys can tell me, and then I'll open it up for questions, and I want you guys to share your experiences. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're on Clubhouse, let me go over there. If you're on Clubhouse and you're an entrepreneur, you got a business, thinking about starting one, just put a 1 in the chat so I know how many of you guys are out there. I'm guessing there's a few because you guys have been listening this long. You folks that are on TikTok, put a 1 in the chat if you're an entrepreneur, you're starting a business, you work a full-time job, and you're thinking about starting a business. Put a 1 in the chat. I want to see kind of where you guys are also, because I want to get into these 20 and talk about how we kill these thought processes, these toxic thought processes. All right. So we got quite a few 1s in there. All right. Okay. Amigo, Daryl, I see you. Kim, I see you. All right. So we've got some entrepreneurs in the building. Let me see how many on Clubhouse. We got a couple on Clubhouse. All right, Eamon, Kim. Okay. All right. Put a 2 in the chat if you've ever experienced, and you may be experiencing some of these things now, any of these things that we went through, the 20 reasons people don't start their business, start or scale their business. Keep in mind, scaling a business could be just as scary as starting one, right? Because you got to get outside your comfort zone. So those 20 things were the fear of failure, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, fear of judgment, being overwhelmed, scarcity mindset, lack of self-belief, attachment to security, like a job, like leaving a steady paycheck, analysis paralysis, waiting for permission, right? from subconsciously waiting for permission from like a mentor, spouse, God, whoever you know. Number 11, fear of success, past failure or trauma, lack of support system, comparison trap, right? Looking at others who are further along, thinking, you'll never catch up. Stuck identity. You still see yourself as an employee, a helper, beginner, so on and so forth. Information overload, guilt, waiting for enough. I'll start when I have enough money, enough time, enough experience. Misunderstanding the process, emotional exhaustion. Put a 2 in the chat if any of those are have impacted you. Any of those 20. Now, Kim, you got a few 2s in there, so I'm gonna call you up, and I want you to share the experience that you're talking about, because I could tell you really felt that. You was like, look, I'm gonna put 4 2s in here. So come up on stage when you get a chance. If you can, come up on stage if you get a chance. I'll go ahead, and you guys on TikTok, I want to hear about it. Come up on stage when you just come up. Let me see. You guys know how to do it. Just come. Crystal, I want to hear about that emotional exhaustion too. I don't think we talked about that. But they're tired, not from laziness, not from survival. This is number 20, folks. We mentioned it, but I didn't give the explanation. They're tired, not from laziness, not from survival. And by the way, that could be exhausting by itself. And it's hard to build when you're just trying to breathe. Okay. Huh. I'm surprised that is all the way down the list at number 20. I would think that would be a lot higher on the list. And the reason I say that is because there are some people in some situations that are really, really tough. And just to give you an example, there's a young lady in our real estate family that was, the first time I spoke to her, she has 4 kids and she was living in a hotel. That was the first time I spoke to her. And she was, and what prompted me to speak with her is I think it was on Clubhouse. She was asking a lot of questions, and I like when people are really, really hungry. And thank you guys for sharing the room on TikTok. It means a lot. This is a new page, so we're trying to, build it up so we can get more exposure. And the more opportunities we get, we bring those opportunities to other people in and out of our organization. So sharing the room is not a small thing, so appreciate that. So this young lady, 4 kids in a hotel room, we had a conversation online. She was asking a lot of questions about real estate investing, some really basic questions, typical questions people ask when they're trying to get into it. And she didn't ask for anything, right? But I loved how hungry she was, right? So I said, some of her questions were that required a little more discussion. So I said, let's take it offline. I'll give you my number, because I don't like to close a room down with any unanswered questions, right? I said, I had to go. I said, here's my number. Go ahead and call me. I'll go ahead and answer the rest of your questions. And I found out about her situation. And I said, look, I'll mentor you for free. You don't have to, it's not going to cost you anything. I will mentor you for free. I'll have somebody reach out to you. They'll onboard you. You start coming to class 4 nights a week. You can come for as long as you want. Classes start over. We add new classes. There's continuing education. We got a portal. If you run into some trouble, you can go ahead and reach out. We'll navigate you through it for as long as you need, period. We don't have an end date until you determine you no longer need us. And, eventually she, got out of the hotel, and her situation's a lot better now. But when I think back to her situation and me as a dad and somebody, look, I got my 3-year-old in there right now. He's sleeping in today, but I got anxiety about him waking up and coming up in here and wrecking the whole. That's just one. She had 4, and these kids had to go to school and do all of these. I'm like, I don't know if I would have been able to do it. Like the amount of resilience and drive that a person has to have at that level, in that type of situation, that was one of the ones where I was like, I don't know. So I offered to do anything to support this young lady, and she's doing better now. But that emotional exhaustion, like that is, man, I'm really surprised that that's all the way down to number 20. I have, you guys that are entrepreneurs with kids, that sometimes you have to structure things around. I get my son comes out every month. He goes back and forth. We switch months. But when he's here, my schedule has to be, I adjust my schedule, because he'll walk up in here. He's a good kid. He'll walk up in here and be like, what's going on here? I'm like, daddy's working. He's talking about real estate. Well, I need some ice cream. So I need you to shut down all these platforms until I get some ice cream. I'm going to stand. That's just what it is, right? And that can be, I had to condition myself not to get bothered by that and upset by that and stressed out about those things. So that emotional exhaustion, all right. All right. That was a tangent. All right. Let's get back to it. So I see a bunch of twos in on both platforms. So a bunch of ones, I see a bunch of twos. So Kimberly, let's go over to Clubhouse. Kimberly, can you hear me all right?
I can.
Why'd you put
Hey,
some?
over.
How you doing?
I'm great. I'm doing good. How are you?
Now, is this one of is this one of my Kimberlys in our real estate family, or is this a new Kimberly?
No, I'm not new, but I'm always tuning in. But no,
Okay.
I
So
haven't.
so why'd you put them twos? Why'd you put them twos in there?
I, this is so several things on this list were impactful, and I mean they're all impactful, but several of these things really resonated with my journey, and some of them more than others, but definitely multiple things. Like specifically, a big, huge thing that has always two that kind of go hand in hand: the perfectionism and analysis paralysis.
Okay.
Those two things are really, they're crippling.
Yeah. Yeah. What is it you do? What's the business that you are thinking about or starting or in the middle of right now?
Well, right now I'm a real estate broker, so I do real estate, property management, and then I do a little bit of investing for myself. But just in branching, so I'm kind of most of what I do. Most of my business is on referrals and things. I network a lot. I go out and I talk to people. I just know, the people that I know. I do good business, so I get referred. But I know that I should be doing a whole lot more. I should be doing, the social media, just other things that I need to do. And I am the person that will tap in and tune in and listen and research, and I may know it almost on an expert level and just not take off because the analysis paralysis and then the perfectionism makes the preparation for doing something just take forever and maybe never come to fruition. So
I love that though. You know why? Because I see a solution for that. Because you said you're a real estate broker, right? Do you have agents yet, or you haven't taken on agents yet?
I haven't taken on agents. I have I have two broker licenses. One as a associate broker under a brokerage that I work for. The other, I have my company and then the principal license, but I only do property management there. Okay. And I have one agent, but I haven't taken on doing sales and things. It's just that license is required to do property management.
Okay. So as a real estate broker, there's a lot of things. So your job is to be out there getting more business, not sitting behind a computer doing social media posts and all that other stuff. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
And so, and I'm the same way, right? I'm the same way. So what I did, because I was in a similar situation, I'm not a practice. I'm licensed. I'm a licensed real estate broker in California and Georgia. And I keep my licenses because if I do business in these states, I can just represent myself for the most part, but I don't need a license to represent myself in any state, just to represent other people. So in these two states, I can have other people list it and I'll just take a referral fee from it. But because my job is to be out there letting the world know about who I am and who we are as an organization, I have my license hung with Anthony's office, the Wyndham Real Estate Group down in Southern California, and I'm in Northern California. So, and that's with EXP. Now, whether you're EXP, Keller Williams, like it doesn't matter. It's the brokerage is where your success comes from, not the brand, in my opinion. And his brokerage, one of the smart decisions that he did was he brought in the social media guys to do it all for everybody. And have you thought of making a list of all the things that you're procrastinating on that you don't want to do and seeing how you could do either one, outsource them, or two, join an organization where that's a part of what they do, so you don't have to do it. Those two things. Have you thought about any of that?
Yeah, well, I definitely have made those kind of lists a few times, but just
Okay.
making a list of the things that I'm procrastinating on, that part of it. But
I
thinking
forgot.
of joining an
Yeah.
organization that has a, I was with EXT before. I went to EXT for that reason. They offered I left EXT because I went back to the brokerage that I initially left because I'm talking with my broker about succession. He's ready to retire and wants me to kind of take things over as he phases out. But that is the reason I went to EXP because they have so much to offer. My brokerage is boutique, and with them being older, we don't have a lot of the offerings that we need to have. But in looking to take over, that's one of the things that we're discussing is that I would like to take it to an EXP or an outfit similar to that, just depending on who's doing what at the time that everything is done.
Amen. Now remember, it's not EXP specifically, because you could have, it's the brokerage, not the brokerage as in the brand, but the brokerage within the brokerage. So I wouldn't be with
Mm-hmm.
EXP if I wasn't with Anthony's, that Southern California brokerage. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because there's good brokerages on every brand, and there's horrible brokerages on every brand, but they have a lead generation system. They have the social media stuff already done. So I would say definitely look for an association like that, because you know it's better to be a part of something that's generating a lot than to have ownership over something that's generating very little. And that's one of the things that I had to take into consideration when I chose to be down there with them. But I'm going to ask you this: what is the one thing that you don't like to do that you know you have to?
Um, Probably the social media. I like to go on social media and listen.
Okay.
I like to kind of I prefer to take the role of student. When I go on social media, I want to listen to people that know more than me or that know something different that can add value. I
Oh,
just like to receive the value. I have a lot to offer, but that's the
okay.
part I don't like to do.
We go into your social media right now. What's your social media name?
There is
Instagram.
nothing there really but some selfies. Um,
Instagram. What's your Instagram? We go look at your selfies then. What's your Instagram?
I am Kim Robinson.
Kim.
It's in my clubhouse um,
I got
bio also.
it's on my I can't touch it. So there's a few Kim Robinsons. So are you just Kim Robinson, what, straight Kim Robinson?
No, I am Kim
Oh,
Robinson.
I am Kim I see you right here. Okay. Now let me follow you for. Okay. How long you been in real estate?
Since 2002.
Since
So a very
2002.
long time. Yes, 24 years now.
Okay. So is this your only Instagram posting? Is this your only Instagram account?
I have a Facebook. Oh, yeah, that's my only Instagram account. Yes. Sorry.
Okay. All right. I see accomplished real estate professional, but I don't see any other postings having to do with anything in real estate. I see the posting with the Gordon Gartrell shirt though. You old school, huh? You old school. Put a 2 in the chat, everybody, if you know what the Gordon Gartrell shirt was on. All right. So this is an easy fix, because what I was doing at one point, I like to support, different businesses, right? I like to support black owned businesses, Latino businesses, white owned businesses, right? But sometimes I'll make a concerted effort to support a particular group at any given time. And all I wanted to do was I was going to write them the check. They didn't have to sell me or anything. I was going to call and say, "Hey, can you send me a quote?" And this was in insurance. "Can you send me a quote? I'll pay it right over the phone. We'll do it right now." Right. So they didn't have to sell me anything. And I had to go out and look for people that did what I was looking for. And, probably I went to 5 people. 4 of them didn't even call me back. 4 of them didn't even call me back. The fifth one, she called me back. Um, I said, "All right, I'm ready to pay. Just go ahead and send me the quote. Let me know how to write the check and how to do payment or whatever, and then whatever information you need for this property, I'll go ahead and send it over to you." I never heard from her again, ever. So I'm like, okay, well, I know her. I found her on social media. Let me go to her social media and reach out and just send her a reminder. I didn't see anything about insurance on her social media other than her title, which is how she came up, right? I'm like, I'm waiting for my quote. I'm seeing pictures of videos of her working out, doing all types of other stuff, telling the world how pretty she is. But I'm like, well, what type of, how can I expect to do business with this person if they don't have a means to do it, right? If they don't have anything that shows me that they are actually ready to do business. Yours is an easy fix because you just got to start putting some real estate stuff up here. All right. Let me see. I'm scanning it right now. Yeah, and this is common. This is something you can fix literally in one day. Now, all of these things that you have on here currently are cool. Keep those on here because it adds some personality to it, right? Lets people know that you're a human being. But there's a lot of templates and stuff in Canva that are pre-made that you can throw on here. If nothing else, at least talk about real estate on here because you're looking for an outcome, but actually let me rephrase it. Let me rephrase that. I lost everything and then went to work back at my parents' house. Not work. I lost everything. There was no work. I went to live at my parents' house. They offered me a room. I said, no, I want the couch. I don't want to get comfortable here. And a job came through and it was it was $10 an hour. It was working at a newspaper plant for $10 an hour. Now, this is $10 an hour in the Bay Area, right? So it cost me more to get there than it did that I was making there. But the reason why I took that job after I lost everything, this is after making, a few $100,000 a year. The reason I took that job is because I had to give God something to bless, right? He's not going to knock at the door. I got to give him something to bless. You don't know what post on here, real estate related, is going to catch your next client. And you've got clients, you've got 1,300 followers. You've got 1,300 people that are looking at you, 1,300 people that know somebody that's probably going to have to buy a house, 1,300 people that can refer another 1,300 people. You've got all of this potential here, but you're not unlocking it. But you want the outcome. So the outcome you want doesn't match the work that you're putting in. But I get it because a lot of these things that we procrastinate on stuff. I do it too, right? So my recommendation to you would be just do one. Just do one post about real estate. Just one. Can you do that?
I can.
Just
and
one.
I will.
And I want today.
Okay.
Amen. What time is it where you are?
Amen. 11:26.
So before 5 o'clock, I'm gonna see a real estate post on here.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna tag me in it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll tag you.
Yeah, because you talk about momentum, right? Momentum has to be built from somewhere. So it can be overwhelming to think of all of the things we have to do. Because as soon as you start thinking about Instagram and TikTok posting, your mind automatically goes to, man, I ain't trying to be up here posting. They're talking about I need to post 3 times a day. And then they talk about I need to do a reel, a post, a story, and all that. That's when it gets overwhelming. But I'll tell you, as soon as you do one and get engagement with one, then you start to see that reality through a different set of lenses. And that's just the step up you needed to build the momentum to do another one. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let me tag me in it too, or so I'm gonna start trolling your Instagram. I'm gonna troll it.
Okay, I agree too. I know that is a fact. It's just thinking about and trying to get prepared to take a move on anything is the hardest part. Once you take off, then you're like, okay, it wasn't so bad. And you question why it took you so long. But
yes,
right, that's what I need to do. And I'm glad to have that accountability. I don't want you trolling me, so it'll be there.
I'm gonna troll you for real too. I'm gonna do a whole post about Kimberly Robinson, and I'm gonna put your username in there so people could troll you too. So you got till 5 o'clock.
Okay.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. But tag me in it so that so we can keep each other honest. Amen.
Okay. Amen.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Sarissa, what's up? How you doing, Sarissa?
Hi, how are you? I'm super grateful that you have this topic, and I appreciate you doing this and having me come up.
Amen. If you guys want this list, I'll put the number in the chat. So it's 702-710-8030 for Clubhouse. And then you folks on TikTok, that number above my head, just text the word yes or list or whatever it is to that number, and I'll make sure that you guys get this list. So we went over the 20 reasons that people don't start a business, and now we're going to see how we can fight those 20 reasons. All right. So I'll highlight them again. All right. We'll go over each one. We won't spend a lot of time on it. I do want to get into some real estate stuff, and but when my son wakes up, it's going to be he got diplomatic immunity around this house, so he's going to be ready to get it. But so we'll go over what it is. For example, we'll go over the fear of failure, right? What if I mess up? What if it costs me everything? And then we'll go over the reflection, the thought process that helps us combat that. For example, if I say fear of failure, the thought process to combat that is, what specific outcome am I afraid of? And then, have I ever failed before and still recovered? That's the thought process that we need to have, because once we answer those questions, now we're that much closer. First of all, we did the most important part. We acknowledged it. And if you can't see it, you can't kill it. So we acknowledge that limiting belief or that negative thought process. And now we're going to come up with some language to kind of erase it, to minimize it. All right. Now, Sarissa, you came up for a reason. I want to hear it. I want to make sure I don't go back into it without giving you a chance to share your experience.
So, I have struggled to remain consistently employed. Like I struggle. Like I am cyclic, happen to go back on public benefits, get off, and I have extensive history and trauma, I had, I was sex trafficked young and had two kids before I was 18 and graduated high school and then just wasn't really super unhealthy relationships and just, a lot of dysfunction. And I've carried that throughout my life. And I'm to that point where I've done a lot of the work to really heal and become healthy and recognize my own limitations and whatever. And so, I have crafted hobbies. I guess that could be considered employable skills, I've been trying to get into statistics and I've been getting into administrative stuff just so when I am I have dealt with some of the beliefs that are keeping me from being employed or an entrepreneur, I can do it and I'm, have some skills. And so that's kind of where I'm at, and I guess with you talking about this, I kind of want to, hear your thoughts. And one of the point of conflict in my relationship with my son, he just turned 18 and he'll be graduating soon. And we both love God, we both believe in God, but his view on how I use God, or I don't want to say use God, but his view on my relationship with God, he thinks it's strange. He's I'm well, my level of brokenness is different than his level of brokenness, right? He hasn't been through what I've been through. So I talk to God often about, my shortcomings, and this is, I'll share with you how it relates to, the business aspect of things. But, so I'll be I'm feeling really insecure and I'll talk to him about it. And then it'll take weeks, days, weeks, months, years, whatever, you know what I mean? To finally work through it. So where I have, the confidence or whatever to go do what, I kind of was talking to God about where my insecurity or whatever. And he's why don't you just pray, let it go, and then just go immerse yourself in people who are doing it, and learn from them. Mm-hmm. And so, I kind of wanted to hear what does healthiness look like? What does that process look like for you or for other people that you've talked to? Yeah. Especially including God, what does that look like?
Yeah. So the short answer to that is, I don't know what it looks like. And I don't want to pretend, and I don't want to pretend that I do, because the difference between me and you is we've just got different messes. We're all a mess. We're all a mess. And where you may have experienced your mess, I've experienced some mess in different areas. All right. But I do know this. I do know that we weren't created to feel less than. I know that because we know who our father is, right? If my dad was Bill Gates and everybody, and there was a meeting and I walked into a meeting knowing my dad was Bill Gates, I'm gonna walk in there with a different type of swag, right? Now, how much greater is he than Bill Gates? So we have to understand that, because sometimes that's all that we can cling on. We try to get explanations in order to things so that they make sense to us, but our mind is not his mind. And sometimes it takes us going through this seasoning process, and we'll understand it in retrospect once we've made it through the storm. And sometimes it may feel like we're through the storm, but maybe we're not. Maybe there's still some growth that needs to be that needs to happen. We don't know what the recipe is, right? Now, I know that God has a formula for making me into the person that he wants me to be. And sometimes I have to acknowledge who that person is, meaning I say, all right, Otis, what type of person do you want to be? Right? So no one can get you angry. You're a good father, all of these positive characteristics, because you'll notice that a lot of the positive characteristics that we want to impart on ourselves when we think about our future selves are godlike, just naturally godlike. Okay. And this is a tool that I use that I'm gonna share with you. Anytime I'm exposed to any type of adversity, there's always an emotional response, even before my actions react. There's an emotional response. And that emotional response is based on 49 years of, it could be unresolved trauma, whatever it is, there's an emotional response. So I have to first acknowledge that that happens because I'm a human being. And then I have to look at that adversity. And instead of approaching it the way that feels good to me right now, I consult another person. The person that I consult is the me 10 years from now or 5 years from now. I say, hey, Otis, because that Otis already has all of these positive attributes. How would he handle this situation? How would he handle this adversity? And if this was a bad thing that was happening to me right now, what perspective would he have on it? Right. And once I started doing that over the years, things started to become, I don't want to say a lot easier because life still happens, but I was able to get through things a lot smoother because of that one tool, right? For you, I would focus on the practical application of what it is that's going to get you. I'm talking about the entrepreneurship stuff that's going to get you on the road to entrepreneurship. You said you had a hobby or something that you did, Sarissa. What was that?
Just understanding data, statistics, and just the administrative part of business or paperwork. Yeah.
No, I think no. You said you made something, or didn't you say you had something that you could like sell? Like what did I misunderstand that?
Oh, well, yeah. So some things that I personally do is I'm an advocate for special education kids in school. And so like I created like a booklet to track data because it can get very hard and overwhelming, and paperwork and data and within paperwork can get become a lot.
Okay.
So I've like created a book on tracking data to be able to interpret it to then get services that you need based on that data, and then like just a specific type of record keeping folder.
Okay. How can I get that book?
I just was talking to some people yesterday. She was telling me how to get a barcode. So I'm still kind of, I guess, at the beginning stages of that.
Okay. So this is what we do. You see that number in the chat? That 702 number?
Yeah.
I want you to text me your name and text me I'm the one with the book, and I will show you how. I will put I will show you how to get it. Oh, God, I'm trying to be careful. I will show you how to go from where you are now to the next level the same day. Now you're talking to somebody that, if I have an idea, if I have a program that I want to put together, or I have another educational gem that I want to offer in some format, I do it that day, and I put a system in place so I can get it out to folks. So text me, because it's going to be a longer conversation than we have now, because I'm about to tap out in a little bit. but text me your name, full name, and just say, "Hey, I'm the one with the book," and I will call you, and then I will give you a plan to get that off, because that's an easy one. Amen.
I appreciate
And it's not going to cost a lot either. It's not going. I'm not going to charge you anything, but I'm talking about it. It's not going to cost a lot to get it up and running. So I got you covered. All right. All right.
you.
All right, Bam. I'm gonna go to you real quick. That's cool. People have this situation, and okay, right on. I see you. I see you, Daryl. Bam. What's going on? I'm gonna go to you. Then we're gonna go back over these 20, and then I'm going to provide the thought process that I had in mind for each of these 20 for anybody going through some of these. But I don't want to go on without getting to you, Bam. What's going on?
What's up, King? Greatly appreciate you. I have two requests.
Yes, sir.
One, 10K and I do a room every Friday. Started last Friday. So our next one is on Friday the 13th, Good Luck Day.
Mm-hmm.
And the title of that room at 12 noon Pacific time is What's Your Business and How Can We Help? I would love it if you can't make this Friday, make the following, but can you make this Friday? And take a look at your calendar. And if you don't mind, I'll put a link in the chat regarding that room. Second request, I'm in Vegas every couple of weeks. I'll be back on the 24th, and I'll be speaking, and my topic is a conversation with Bam Franklin. You shop, you join, Bam gives. 6 p.m. is the open door, 7 p.m. It's like East Vegas, but I'll send you the link when I get it for the 24th. Would love for you to come out. And is it okay if I put the link regarding this Friday coming, the Good Luck Day, Friday the 13th? I'm done speaking. Bam.
Absolutely, yes. I'll do all that. 10K. That's my guy. So, yeah, whatever he needs, I'm down, man. If you could send me at that number, just text me your information. I'll go ahead and reach out to you, and then we can, and then we'll coordinate. But yeah, I'll definitely do it. Hold on, everybody.
Much appreciated. I'm done speaking. Bam.
Amen. All right, folks. I got to pause 1 second. Give me 30 seconds, and I will be right back. Let me see. Let's do that. I'll be right back. All right. I heard a big boom outside. I was like, oh, CPS going to be coming. All right. All right. Bam, I got you covered. You guys that want this list, go ahead and text that number. Somebody asked me where I was from. I'm actually in the Bay Area. That 702 number is my attorney's office. So all of my information goes to my attorney. And the kids are up in the back. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you guys this list because I got to go back on daddy duty a little sooner than I thought. Let me see. Where in the Bay Area are you located? D, I'm on the peninsula. So I'm on San Mateo. Yeah, that part. So you guys go ahead and text list or whatever to that number. TikTok, it's above my head. Clubhouse, it is right in the chat. And then I will send you this list. I'll format it in some way that's, nice and pretty with all of our information on it, our branding information. And we'll go ahead and get you guys squared away. I got to shut it down earlier. I thought I could squeeze out another 20 minutes, but I can't. I will be back on tomorrow. I think we're gonna, we'll mix it up: entrepreneurship, real estate. And apologies for those of you that I couldn't get to, but I think this warrants a part 2 of this conversation. I think that's it. 4datapoints.com is the real estate investing mentorship website. most of you know this is an entrepreneurship conversation. So ventureu.live is our business retreat in Medellin. That's going to be really good for folks that are $0 to $10 million. If your company, if you're scaling up, you're already at 10 million, you're trying to scale above that, I don't think we are going to be able to help you because that requires some different processes and consultants. But if you're at $0 trying to get to 10 million, I am flying in all of the consultants that you will ever need to start or scale your business to Colombia, Medellin, specifically October 1st to October 6th. There is a villa. There is, it's a 17-room villa. Don't worry, there's just as many bathrooms as there are rooms. No, it's not a couples retreat, but you know, if you're husband and wife or something, you're more than welcome to come join us. That being said, folks, we are out. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bam, make sure you text me your information. I'll get back to you. Sarissa, make sure you text me your information. I'll call you. If not today, definitely tomorrow, but most likely today. Kimberly, you better post that Instagram post for your real estate or so I'm going to start trolling. And I'm funny too.
Thank you. I know. I'm on it.
All right. I'm going to shut it down. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.
Enjoy your day, Otis. Thanks for pouring.
Amen.